Hello family. So it's been a long time since I've made a YouTube video, and I feel like this is long overdue, not only for myself but for those people that are genuinely worried and care for me, because at this moment in time, I honestly, just throughout this video, I don't want to get emotional, but it'll be very easy to. So at this moment in time, I would like to just say that everything that goes on in life and within our own journey has to do with oneself. It has to do with ourselves. So that's why it's very important to reflect and to recognize that typically when you encounter with people, this is a sign of either mirroring, that's this person mirroring you, or as we know it, actually very many people haven't recognized this, and so most of the time it's actually projection of what they actually feel or what they're going through, or what they assume you to be. So with that being said, comment, like, and share the vibes. As I mentioned, it's been a very long time since I felt comfortable to come on camera and, do what I've been doing for the past year, which is making some YouTube videos on updates of my life, of what I've been going through, my trials and tribulations, and things like that. Around this time last year, I was stuck in a psychosis. So what this video is mainly about, if you're not interested, just go ahead and skip it out. But if you're wanting to know what it is that has brought me to this point and has been bringing all these, different statuses that I've made, or these different posts that I've posted over this course of time, this will explain most of it. Obviously everybody goes through their own things and they can't speak on everything because there are always some sorts of, things that are hidden in the dark, and things like that. So obviously I won't go too deep into detail. I also tend to go off on so many different things, so excuse me if I do. But long story short, this is how I ended up in the psych ward, and the reasonings and what I was feeling, what I went through, and my diagnosis. So around this time last year, at the second week of June, I was admitted into the psychiatry ward here in Brandon, which is where I live here now currently. I had come from Winnipeg after a series of different events that brought me to a breakdown. I just want to say that, obviously, like I said, everybody goes through their own things, but it's been hard for me to, not express all these things that I've been feeling, all these emotions that have been going through me. I feel like I've been suppressing them, and with that being said, I gained a lot of weight. I gained about 30 pounds from about this time last year since now. So something I'm going to have to work on for me personally during this time, being where I'm at, is focusing on my health and, not else more. I am looking to lose those 30 pounds in the healthiest ways. I did invest in a detox program, so these are things that I'm capable of doing and conquering on my own. With that being said, like I said, excuse me if I get emotional and start crying. There's nothing wrong with that, because that is a way of releasing, which is what I have to do right now. Releasing is a form of detoxing when you cry. That's just my personal prerogative. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's just what I feel. I feel very much relieved when I let things go and when I speak about my emotions. I have been going to therapy, but honestly I haven't been in about 4 or 5 months time, because I feel like there's only so much talking that you can do, which is part of what I'm doing right now. Like I said, there's different ways to release, so I'll have to go about releasing what's in my body. mostly, because there's a lot of tension there. There's a lot of dead weight that I'm carrying, and I would just like to proceed and progress and release these things. So as I mentioned, I was admitted into the psychiatry ward by not only my parents, my stepmom and my father, but also my family along with that, because they noticed that I had been going through some things. It actually wasn't just over a year's time. It had been, I want to say, like almost like since the pandemic started. I had been going through a lot of different, I guess you would say, changes, which is totally inevitable. Change is something that happens one way or the other. However, I've been going through tower moments is what I would call them. I would also refer to this time as an awakening, and I'm a spiritual being, not so much religious, through my changes of life and all these things that have happened to me. But I absolutely believe in God. I believe in God's plan for me, and that is the only thing that I want, is what God wants for me. And the way that spirit has been moving through me, I have been forced to take this time out to myself in order to sort my emotions and to, like I have mentioned, release and move forward. So with that being said, things that I was doing, as in, I realized too that energy has a big part, has a big play to do with life. And in the past I had maybe not even hung around or been with certain people, but I absolutely shared my energy with these people, whether I met them on a physical basis or not. And I recognize that I got myself into some trouble with that. Not only that, I was using cannabis as a crutch for about 10 years, I want to say. So from the time of like 17, 18, I started smoking weed, and it's almost like, honestly, I forced myself to start, because it took me about like 7 times, honestly, to feel the feeling of being high. And I was very anxious. I'm a naturally anxious person, especially from the environment that I grew up and came from. I have, like, as of right now, even something specific I have to work through is my nervous system. It is shot, and it has been shot ever since I can remember. So when you don't grow up with stability, which is something also that I recognized from when the pandemic started, like I said, it's almost like I'm doing a 360 and coming back into things, into life experiences that I did about 4 or 5 years ago. And please forgive me if the timeline is off. I know that I've mentioned some things in my past videos and the year's been off, or I mentioned things that just like go over my head, because to me right now, time is of the essence. It's just flying by. So like 1 year feels like those 5 years or the 4 years that the pandemic, like starting 2020, things like that. I even went on this journey of celibacy in order to, cleanse my aura and to get a restart and start over with my own being, and to clear out, whatever detoxes that I have in me, and to actually figure out what exactly it is that I want for myself, and to proceed with that only. I only want what's best for me, and I only want what the Lord wants for me, what is written, okay, and what is destiny and fate. So with that being said, I felt that, I had talked to a doctor actually prior to ever going to therapy, because like I said, during the pandemic things had changed. So I did end up starting with therapy then. However, it was over the phone. I was a very busy girl. I was working 12-hour shifts at the lake and at the restaurant in town here, in Mendoza at the Cornerstone, and just was very busy and exhausted on times and days that I was not working. So whenever I caught the call with the excuse me, I space out easily, with the therapist, we just talked about regular things. Like, it was very just like basic, getting to know each other, and like I said, it was the first time, so it was just like introduction and things like that. You know, if you're feeling suicidal, numbers to call, and you know, just like I said, the basics, introduction. So prior to that, I had because my parents were telling me that I should go to therapy to start, right? Obviously they could see that I was unwell. I was not doing the best that I could possibly do and be. So I ended up going to initially the doctor who referred me, right, to get into therapy. And he said, you know, it sounds like you need support, and it sounds like you need stability. It does not sound like something that you have had in your life. And honestly, like, I cried just to have the realization, right, when somebody else from the outside sees and acknowledges what is, right? So for starters, I am Jamaican, but I'm also Canadian, obviously. So I have my Canadian citizenship from the age of 6, meaning I moved from Jamaica from my mother and stepfather and my 2 younger Jamaican siblings, which is now like 25 and 20. And yeah, I moved for a whole different life in the middle of winter to Canada in a blizzard, to live with my dad and his family. So with that being said, growing up and being the age that I am, the big age of 30, I recognize how traumatic some of these events were. So honestly, one of the hardest things to do is to express myself, and like I said, is to simply release. Like, I don't want to carry the baggage anymore. I don't want to think of what was, what could have been. I know what was now and what should have been, and I would like to just move past that. So anyway, with that being said, I recognize that my parents did as much as they could. However, there's a piece of me that feels like they could have done more in those earlier years, and that's just maybe me being ungrateful. However, those 2 things could be true at the same time. Yes, they tried their hardest. Yes, they did what they could as parents and had me, right? So I'm grateful for that. That's all I could say. So like I said, at this big age, I'm 26 now, at the time when I finally am introduced to therapy. After hearing the doctor says what is, like I said, it was like a trail of events that happened. So the pandemic happened, 2020, and carried on until about now. So then last year, like I said, at this time, I had a breakdown. I was in a crisis. I was in a psychosis. I didn't know what was up, what was down, because guess what? At this time, I was not in my body. I was trying to escape any way that I can. I was trying to not think about, not be in the moment, not live for the now. I was just so upset with life. I was upset with everybody. I didn't know who to trust. I felt like I could trust nobody at all, including myself. And And I thought, like, this can't be it. This cannot be my fate. How is it that I've taken all these years to clean my energy, to purify my aura, and this be what's written for me? I just couldn't believe that these were the events that I was still going through. All these karmic things I was still going through. Mind you, I didn't have savings like that. No, I really didn't. That's something also that you just didn't learn in school. And I'm not blaming anybody for that but myself, that's something I haven't learned. So with that being said, I'm taking to you know, the cop shop. I don't know if that's just like the way you go about being admitted, but that's just how it happened for me. I was stuck in a field the night before, so I actually like had to sleep in my car. I had no service. I was driving around like drunk. Like, I hadn't drinking for a while, and when I do, I usually go overboard, which is one of my diagnoses, is pretty much like an addiction. I forget what the actual term is, but it's easy for me to get addicted to things. You know, right now it's food for me. At one point it was alcohol. So back in my teenage years, I started drinking at like 15 when I started working at Blazers until like midnight and things like that. And it all was because of the people that I associated with myself with. So I had friends, and obviously, like I said, that has nothing to do with anybody but me getting myself involved with weed, with alcohol. I'm doing it to myself now with food, overindulging in food and using it as a blanket, as comfort. So excuse me, so sorry once again, I'm just going off into different details that I can remember, because for a very long time I put a lot of things out of my memory just to protect myself so that I wasn't reliving these horrific things. Like I said, I was taken by my dad, who came and grabbed me from where I could get to from the night that I was stuck the next morning, where I parked because my car was ruined. It's still wrecked. Like, I don't even know how I'm driving it right now, and that's why I won't be driving it for a while. I won't be doing all that. Like, I won't be going on my way to burn gas because my vehicle is quite literally like not doing its thing right now, and that's how my body feels. Like, my car has given out, and that's kind of just how I feel as well. Like, I'm not a robot. So, you know, there are times that I need rest and I need to recuperate and rejuvenate in order to get back into the swing of things, to get back into life, to get it back into my passions, to feel soulful again. So anyway, my sister comes and she assists my dad. And you know, she meets us at the cop shop and they take me in. So my sister takes me in and my dad kind of waits outside. I lost my shoes in the mud the night before, so actually my dad went across the street and got me some shoes. Like, I walked right in the cop shop like the mad woman I am. So you know, the cop asked, like, is this your sister? And I'm like, yeah, she is, right? So my sister's like, oh, like, you know, do you know like why you're here? And I'm like, yeah, like, I suppose there's like unfortunate events that led me here from way back, like from when I can remember, you know. But she said no, like, you know, as of recently, you know. So she said what she needed to say, and you know, things don't always pan out the way that you want. So it wasn't exactly what I was expecting to hear, but nonetheless, she showed up for me. I want to say that was the best thing that my parents and family could have done for me, because I needed that. I needed to have the reassurance that I would be in a safe safe space for the time being, to get the rest that I needed, to have the care of the nurses and doctors around, to be involved in things that actually, you know, reassured me, to be around people that I could relate to, and also see how, you know, deep things could get, and how good I had it off being in there. So with that being said, I was taken to Emerge, where you know, I kind of like sat around for a while, and then progressed into being admitted into the psych ward, where you know, I stayed for about 3 weeks, a month. So at first, when I'm admitted, they are, you know, reassuring me that yes, it was my family that admitted me, and you know, because I was saying these things, so they had, you know, receipts. They had the receipts. I was absolutely sending people, I was ranting, and I was sending people text on text, and I was calling and things like that, because like I said, I was stuck in a psychosis. I didn't know how I was gonna get out. I didn't know how to, at the time, get back into myself and be my own being, and to get back into a body that I wanted to be in, and into a reality that I wanted. So during this time in the psych ward, I was able to, like I said, have many different meetings with doctors, nurses, some with familiar faces. So I would like to, you know, shout out to them for being attentive and for being understanding, and you know, not being judgmental, but recognizing that people do go through things, and that you know, it's not always physical. I always say, like, you can see when someone has a scratch or bruise and say, like, hey, that person's hurt. But when you have something going on inside of you, and you have mental breakdowns, people don't recognize it until you explode. And sometimes, though, that's kind of, those are the events that happened to me. It was, I would just explode after I had enough. Now to where we are today, I've decided to stop people pleasing, because that's what got me to where I was. I'm over my my karmic cycles. I've cleared my karmic debt. I don't owe anybody anything, and nobody owes me anything. So therefore, I can move forward. No regrets, right? So going back to, you know, being admitted, I feel like I also just haven't talked about everything that I would like to, neither to my therapist, because it's small town living. So I feel like it's a little bit easier to talk to someone that knows nothing about you, and vice versa. You know what I mean? But that's just my opinion. I feel like everybody has childhood trauma, and I feel like everybody could benefit from having a therapist. You know, however, I have to move forward with learning how to heal myself. Like I said, I took a detox course, so I'm not totally oblivious to it. And I recognize that I have to move through this, not only verbally speaking, but physically. I have to get active and start moving my body, and, you know, feel like myself again, and get confident and live my authentic life, because quite honestly, I haven't been doing that for a very long time, and I think it's quite obvious to the people that actually know me. At this point, I don't even know if I really know myself, right? Like, I have to really sit down and, like, write down, like, who am I? And kind of just live the life I want, and not live up to other people's expectations, because at the end of the day, that still doesn't make them happy. You really just have to make yourself happy, you know? So like I said, my nervous system, like growing up, I never felt like I had that space to be myself. I felt like I always had to earn love. I always felt like things were transactional. I just felt like things were more unhealthy than healthy. I was very fortunate to have a grandmother who cared dearly for me. I felt also like there was a time that she decided that she was ready to go, which was around the time of the pandemic when I moved in with her and my grandfather on their farm for a short period of time. And you know, she was also seeming to have some mental disconnect, and I could tell. And she was telling me, you know, stories, and she was asking me about TV shows and episodes, and then she would explain these things to me, and I recognized that these were our life events. These were real things that happened, and she was replaying it as if it was a movie. So I found that really interesting, but I recognized at that time that she was ready to go. She said that to me. We took a drive, my grandfather, me and her, to Spruce Woods, where we used to camp every single year. She would take us grandchildren on separate trips each and every year. We'd have the best times of our life, you know, eating what we wanted. Like ice cream. She would take us for ice cream on the evenings and take us for walks. We get to know the campground people and to go to the beach every day. We had routine. It was very stable, and she was someone that I could trust and confide in. So, you know, to recognize that she was gone was really hard for me. I felt like she was one of the only people in my corner that could understand me and that was supportive of me, of my true being, of who I am and who I was meant to be. So I was grieving. I had a broken heart. I still do, you know, from past things. But like I said, I'm moving forward. I'm healing. I spoke about being spiritual before. I can still feel her presence, and know that I am taken care of and I'm protected, and that I'm being guided to where and who I need to be. So on this healing journey, I am taking this time, like I said, to go about losing some weight, to get rid of dead weight that no longer serves me. As I mentioned before, I'm not a people pleaser, so I'm moving forward and doing what needs to be done for myself. And I plan on, like I said, becoming who I need to be for my lineage, for my bloodline. I really do respect my grandparents for creating that generational wealth, and I don't want to let our last name down. I do want to continue in those footsteps. I absolutely learned some things from them, and I would like to proceed in the name of God with those things that I learned, and that'll be beneficial for the ones to come, and you know, make my ancestors proud. My mother didn't birth me for no reason. I don't feel like she went through what she went through for me to just get this far. You know, I also really want to thank those that have been around, whether they're longtime family friends or, you know, those women that I call auntie but aren't blood auntie. To me, I do consider them blood. In this wonderful life, we get to create our own reality, and we also do get to create the family that we want and deserve. And those are people that I recognize and consider blood. May God continue to watch over, protect, and bless them. And to wrap this up, like, honestly, I just wish what everybody wishes for me. At the end of the day, I seen that the veils were very thin. I had, like I said, an awakening is what I want to refer it to as, that psychosis, and I saw people's true colors. And you know, like I said, moving forward, I do not want to involve myself in any more hurt. I need to protect my well-being and, most importantly, my mental health at this point, because during those months of really like going through it, I couldn't get anywhere without my mentals. I was very much paralyzed. As mentioned, I felt like I could not reach, I could not connect my mind, body, and my soul. I don't ever want to feel like that again, and I don't want anybody to let me get out of character. And I just honestly, I truly want to thank those people. Like I said, after coming out of, you know, realizing, okay, like, I was admitted by my family, however, I have to take the initiative and say that, hey, look, I needed to be here. I had to come to those terms, like, yeah, this was probably the best thing for me. The wildest part was, you know, thank goodness for my mother in Jamaica, who recognized I was going through something, and I'm sure she didn't know exactly what, but I feel like she is relatable and could understand that, yeah, I was going through something. And those other women that have reached out to me and things like that and asked, like, are you okay? And I'm here for you, and if you need anything, let me know. You could come stay at my place. I have a room here for you, and things like that. You don't go unnoticed. I think that where I was, like I said, I felt like the world was untrustworthy. I got let go from the psych ward, and like I said, my mom had actually just sent me money when she realized I was just like going through it and wasn't being myself. And so, you know, I had rent money, but the thing was, because like I mentioned, I don't really have savings like that, she sent me a lot of cash. And you know, the craziest part was I got out of the psych ward and I ended up being homeless. I was living in and out of my car. I didn't know where I was gonna stay. I didn't know who to trust. I didn't know what was going to happen moving forward. So I have my orange cobalt, and I was taken by my dad because you have to be signed out. So he comes, you know, to get me for the weekend is when I got out. And you know, he doesn't say much. We go and pick up my meds, which thank God those help me sleep for, you know, the time that I took them, and to be, you know what I mean, relaxed a little bit. Like, it really helped with my anxiety. However, I had to wean myself off of those because it was very close for me to get addicted to popping pills. When I felt like uncomfortable or felt like I couldn't sleep, like, I just have to retrain myself, you know what I mean? But yeah, he took me to the hotel in Carberry. So I rented a room out there. Didn't have my car to start, even though he's the one that I left it with, you know. So I kindly asked of him to bring it back, and he says, like, it's not really working. And I said, you know what, my mom will pay for it. Just bring back my car. I need my wheels. Like, I earned those wheels. So he did that the next day, you know, so I can get to where I needed. So yeah, after my few nights spent in Carberry, I took off to Brandon, like I said, not knowing where things were gonna go, how I was gonna go about renting out a room, because I'd been living in Winnipeg for so long. And yeah, I just ended up like renting out Airbnbs with the savings that my mom had sent me. I'm still in the middle of paying her back, honestly, because yeah, like I've been really just going through it and trying to get through it. So yeah, those were some life-shocking things. I was able to gain trust with myself and to move forward. And like I said, I'm not going to take anything from anybody. I'm going to return to sender. I'm going to rebuke all of what's not meant for me. And you know, if you got this far in the video, I want to thank you for tuning in, for tapping in, you know, and I'm going to enjoy my summer. I'm going to find myself living the best of life, because that is absolutely what I deserve, with or without these people who were meant to protect and care for me, who obviously had no desire to. I want to say, like, you can have good intentions and still go to jail. What I mean in regards to that is, if there's a man standing, you know, say for example, behind a woman who is guilty, that makes that man just as guilty, if not guiltier. Actions mean more than words. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. If you're not willing to get past your traumas, if you're not willing to, you know, get through your karma of whatever it might be, or work through your mirrors, be willing to look through a mirror or work on your shadow aspects, you will live in the dark. It'll be hard to see the light. And when you see the light, you will rebuke it. And yeah, the light won't come around often, because you'll live in your comfort. And healing isn't easy. I see why most people stay the way they stay and live in discomfort, calling it comfort, because it's just easier, right? But I want to say to, you know, someone who this might help, that it gets better. Release yourself from your demons. Move forward. Change is inevitable, and you will reap the benefits of healing yourself. You will never lose wanting better for yourself. You will always win with the truth. You will always prevail living in your authentic truth. And that's the conclusion for the day. I hope everybody has a great summer. I don't know when next I'll be on here to make a you know, video. I hope that, you know, this reaches who it's supposed to. And you know, my intentions are never really ill. So with that being said, I can sleep at night, knowing that you know, I try my best and I do what I can. And that's all I can say. Ciao for now.